that good. All right, welcome to episode 85 of the 2-Minute Warning. We just released a Will Drew Lock ever lead the Broncos to Super Bowl video. On the table today, Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans. The exact same question, Jay. What's your take?
I definitely think it's possible. I mean, if you think about it,
Likely.
that division he is in, Phillip Rivers is going to retire in a year or two. Jacksonville Jaguars are the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Tennessee Titans. I do like them this year, but I just don't see Tannehill ever being that long-term guy that just continuously dominates in their division. And Derrick Henry is the best running back in the NFL. But as we know, prime running backs only last so long. He already entered his prime. He's probably got 2-3 more years. Quarterbacks last forever. And the Texans definitely have the best quarterback in that division. Now, Patrick Mahomes is always going to be an issue. I don't care if he plays till 52. That man is just goated and will always be an issue in the AFC. But anything can happen. An injury can happen. And the AFC is wide open. Texans are going to be a while, in my opinion, though, just because this year they're not doing good and they don't even get their first-round pick due to that Remy Tunsil trade. Bill O'Brien is gone to get rid of the bad juju he had on that team, losing DeAndre Hopkins for this star-studded David Johnson that's injured. And
so good.
Really, right now, they don't have a lot of hope. I think this year or even next year, depending what coach they hire, possibly the Chiefs offensive coordinator, that would be interesting. That could actually boost them up a lot. But right now, unless they sign some big free agent, they'll be in a similar position next year, possibly some more wins, but not a huge contender in my opinion.
All right, so this question is a huge yes for me. Go Texans. I think absolutely it's very possible in the near future. Last year we saw Texans at one of the top seeds, if not the best team in the AFC. I still think they were goated last season. Of course, we saw that tough loss to the Chiefs in the playoffs where they blew that huge lead. So, no, they weren't the best team in the AFC, obviously, but they were up there. And a lot went downhill this year. They fired their GM/head coach, Bill O'Brien, which is a good move. But they couldn't get him out soon enough before they got rid of DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson. I forget what else was involved in that trade.
Shitty pick.
It was essentially it was player for player.
Yeah.
And that's a horrible
horrible
move.
round.
Yeah. So anyway, and we lost the pick that he was saying to Miami for Larry Tunsil. So the future doesn't look very bright for this team next year. But to me, so much is riding on the head coaching position of this team. Because I believe the talent's there on offense with Will Fuller and Kenny Stills, Brandon Cooks, all as receiving options for Watson. Of course, we lost Hopkins, but we were able to acquire Cooks and I guess Randall Cobb, but he hasn't really had a huge influence this season. But anyway, we were able to pick up Cooks. We were able to pick up 2 solid receivers for 1 superstar, which actually
It wasn't in the same trade, but
right, not directly, but that's how it ended up happening. Which several takes by some ESPN guys, whatever, were saying that this might actually help the Texans because it would stop Deshaun from forcing the ball to DeAndre, spread it out across the rest of his guys, which I still hold faith to. I think the problems that are happening this year with Texans at 2-7 is at the coaching position and the lack of management. Because now
and defense.
Yeah. Oh, defense is a whole other story. I can't really name anybody on that defense right now, just because of how weak it is. JJ Watt, who's halfway. Yeah, not healthy half the time, and when he is healthy, he's the greatest defensive end / Walter Payton Man of the Year. All the good things you can think of a defensive guy is J.J. Watt, but he's not always healthy and he's getting old. Back to my point, with Romeo Crennel at interim head coach, I think he's great, but he's not the future of the franchise. So the main thing I need from the Houston Texans to get to a Super Bowl in the future is a solid head coach. You mentioned Chiefs offensive coordinator. I don't know his name, but Texans are looking at hiring him. And the way I look at it is anybody from the Chiefs organization, if you can get them to your organization, that's a huge plus. So if the Texans can land that guy, then that boosts them up a lot. But that still leaves out a huge part of the argument is the defense. Now, the offense led by Deshaun Watson is an offense that's capable of an average of 28 points or more, I think. So we don't need to have a top defense in the league. But the 1,000-year-old saying of defense wins championships still holds true. So, of course, we need a solid defense. I would say if this Texans team can land a above-average head coach and a top 50% of defense in the league, I think they can find us a way to the Super Bowl in the next 5 seasons.
Yeah, like you said, I think even you would agree that Russell Wilson's better than Deshaun Watson, and he can only do so much having the worst defense in the league.
That's a great point.
Deshaun Watson can't do everything. He is a great quarterback. He probably does get a bad rap, in my opinion, just because anyone that sees a 2-17, they're always going to blame the quarterback, even though it's really not his fault, kind of like a Justin Herbert similar situation. Deshaun is a great guy. He came in the league. He might have won Rookie of the Year, tore his ACL. Second year, had a solid playoff run. Almost went to the AFC Championship his second year in the league, first year in the playoffs. Obviously, in my opinion, bad coaching job. Lost that game to the Chiefs in the playoffs. Could have gone to the AFC Championship, and really, I think the Texans had the Titans' number, and they would have beaten the Titans and could have possibly gone to the Super Bowl last year. A lot of hope in that, but this year, obviously not even close to that. And next year, I think it will be a similar situation. I think the Colts will probably not be as good, depending how Phillip is. And so I just don't see next year being this time either. But in the future, depending how free agency goes, once they get the draft class back or drafts back, they will be contenders 100%. I could see him and Mahomes being a great AFC rivalry for like the next decade as soon as Lamar drops off.
Yeah, I have high hopes for this team. A lot of what you just said is true. Texans, of course, have only been a franchise for 25-ish years, 20 years. Not a Super Bowl team. It just seems like over the past decade, they've fluctuated from having strong offenses with very poor defenses to solid to good defenses with very poor offenses. I mean, just maybe 4 years ago, they had Brian Hoyer, which was a nightmare, but they had one of the top 5 ranked pass defenses in the league. Now they have one of the top offenses with probably a 30th ranked defense. So it's just a matter of time, I think, for these two aspects of their game to line up, and I think that they'll find their way to Super Bowl relatively soon, but not until, like I said, they find their head coach, they figure that out, and they improve their defense.
Yeah, really. But like you said, they need coach, defense.
It's a lot. It's not.
But in my opinion, they also need a number 1 receiver. There's a lot of teams. I mean, they do have a great diversified.
Losing DeAndre Hopkins kills that team.
They have a great wide receiver depth chart, but it's just tough to not have your number 1 go-to safety blanket guy, which the Texans really don't have. Brandon Cooks is good, Will Fuller's good, Randall Cobb's good, but just who's going to be your number 1
Those are all guys that are probably
they're
just
great.
around.
They're all number 2s.
Yes, exactly.
Combined to be number 1.
He doesn't have anybody. Really, doesn't have anybody tall to throw the ball to. I think Will Fuller, between Will Fuller, Kenny Stills, and Brandon Cooks, I think the height, they're probably 6'1" at height at the tallest.
I think they're all 5 something. Will Fuller might be 6.
Yeah, maybe 6 foot. So he doesn't have a guy he can throw the ball to say get up there.
Which isn't a big thing. That's one free agency signing, and the defense could build through the draft. Even more free agency, and a coach that's just bound to happen through any hire. That's their actual pick.
I think this season was big in getting rid of Bill O'Brien.
Yeah.
To get here, from here, you got to go down first, and you got to get rid of. You got to start over. You got to start to improve.
Long term, when you have a quarterback like that, the future's bright.
Yep, agree. Go Texans.
2 minutes.